Hey gardeners, today we're talking all about potting up, why it's important, when to do it, and how to give your seedlings the best start. Plus, I've got over 300 seedlings to pot up, so let's get started. Hey y'all, it's Amanda and this is my Texas Zone 8 garden. And before we dive in, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with a fellow gardening friend. Okay, so I recently did an update on all my seeds and had the realization it is more than time to begin potting up. And I thought, yes, I can do a quick video on that, but I thought I would actually do a more in-depth video regarding potting up. Potting up is my least favorite thing to do regarding seedlings. And so I was like, let me make this a little bit more fun and really go into depth and kind of talk about the different aspects of potting up and why it is so incredibly beneficial for your seedlings. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what is potting up, why it's necessary, when to pot up, how to pot up, why it's beneficial. We're going to go through all of the reasoning behind it, and then we're probably going to pot up 300 seedlings today. Now I'm not going to do a long video. I'll speed it up so you guys can see. Typically when I'm potting up, I like to do it all at one time, as many as I can at one time, because it is such a messy, lengthy process. All right, you're going to have to bear with me. I have a brutal cold and my throat keeps drying out, so fueled by caffeine here. Okay, what is potting up? Potting up is the process of transferring your seedlings from their initial smaller containers or seed trays into a larger pot or containers as they grow. And so basically, most of my stuff is in these itty bitty trays, right? It's got like a dozen in there. And we're going to be potting them up into larger containers like these. And these are the ones that I save from the local nurseries, typically when I'm buying annuals and stuff. Now you can also pot up large in this. So you can pot up to quarts. So this is quart size. I am going to be potting up my Rudbeckia into quart size pots. You can even pot up into gallon size pots, whatever works for you. You just don't want to pot up too large too quick. So I would not want to take one of these tiny little seedlings and put them in a gallon size pot unless it was for a very specific reason, like that plant has a taproot and we want that taproot to grow in. But most of the time you want to just go up to the next size, and then once it's filled in that size, you go up to the next size after that. Okay, so why is potting up necessary? And I get this question all the time, like, why do I have to do that? Well, you don't. You totally don't have to. A lot of people transfer their little seedlings directly out into the garden, and that works great for them. For me, I start all my seedlings so far ahead of time that I want them to be really big, beautiful plants prior to putting them outside. I still have at least 6 weeks until my last frost date, and I cannot leave a bunch of these seedlings in these containers for the next 6 weeks. So I need to pot them up. And basically, seedlings start out in the smaller cells or trays to conserve space, but as their roots grow, they quickly run out of room, which is very true. Without enough space, they can become root-bound, stressed, or unable to absorb nutrients efficiently. I have a lot of people that be like, yeah, my seedlings aren't growing. I'm like, have you potted them up? And they're like, no. And I'll ask, how long have they been in those seed trays? And they'll say like 12 weeks. I'm like, okay, it might be time to go ahead and pot them up. You have to give them room to grow. And quite frequently, I see a massive jump. Once I've potted something up into another container, they do a massive growth jump, which is really, really fun to see each time. A lot of people ask, how do I know when it's time to start potting up? And so there's a few different signs you can look for. You can look for roots poking out from the bottom. Let me show y'all some of these examples. Roots poking out of the bottom, right? So you can see all these roots going out the bottom of my petunias. Definitely a sign that they need to be potted up. Another sign is if your seedlings are growing slower and slower, or if they're looking stunted, despite your proper care, despite the fact that you've been fertilizing and giving them enough light. So if you feel like they've just gone really stagnant and are not growing, that's also another good sign that you need to pot up to the next level. Also, yellowing lower leaves is typically a sign So you can see on some of these petunias, some of these lower leaves here are yellowing. That's usually a sign that it's outgrowing its space and it's not able to bring in enough nutrients the way it used to, which is a sign that it needs to go to a larger container. A good rule of thumb is that if your seedlings have developed at least 2 to 3 sets of true leaves, it's time to go ahead and pot them up. Another good rule of thumb is height. So for example, my cleome over here, once it has grown past the height of its container, and you can see that this is definitely more than taller than the height of the container, that's also a really good sign that it needs to be, and you can see all the roots coming out, that it needs to be potted up to a larger container. Okay, why is potting up beneficial? It promotes healthy root systems as roots can spread out and grow deeper, which is super important, especially if you have a plant that has a large taproot. So that's one large taproot that comes down. They don't do as well in these smaller containers, but they are very prolific and grow really well in larger containers where they can put down that taproot. It also prevents root-bound plants. So basically, if the roots are growing and growing and growing, a lot of times if they don't have room to spread out, they'll grow in a circle and they'll become root bound, and that leads to a weaker plant and a plant that might not flourish as much. It improves access to nutrients with fresh potting soil, which is absolutely key, especially if you're someone who started all of your stuff in seed starting mix. Seed starting mix has 0 nutrients in it, so you do have to definitely pot up and get those to the next level so that they can have nutrients in standard potting soil. It also prepares seedlings for outdoor planting by giving them a larger container so they can grow stronger and be more resilient when transitioning outside. Absolutely. The stronger and larger the root systems are, the better your plant is going to do when you transition it outside for the season. Okay, so we are going to be potting up. And potting up is very simple. It's just time consuming. I'm inside today because it's raining. You can be outside, you can be inside, you can do whatever works best for you. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to start with potting soil we feel good about. I have Burger BM7, which is my favorite potting soil, but I only have a little bit of one bag left. So I'm actually going to use another variety. It's a Vigoro all-purpose potting soil because I did not have time to go out to the place where I buy Burger BM7. If you love Burger BM7, I buy this from Homegrown Plants in Farmersville, Texas. You're going to need a lot of potting soil. Now, I am not going to add fertilizer to this potting soil because I add fertilizer utilizing a liquid, like a diluted liquid fertilizer, and I water my plants with the fertilizer, and then I use slow release fertilizer when I go to plant my plants out in the garden. So I do not add it to this current soil. So you can tell I really need to get after it on these petunias. So you want to be pretty gentle with your seedlings when they're coming out. You want to, don't just pull from the top. I like to give a little bit of pinch towards the bottom to kind of help work it out. Now, if they've got pretty strong root system, it's going to hold together pretty well, just like that. It's beautiful. Looks really good. And you can come in if you want to pull off some of the yellow leaves, you can. It doesn't usually stress me out. But you want to pull it just like that, pull it out carefully. You want to make sure that your seedlings are well hydrated before doing this. So we filled our container up about halfway. Halfway usually ends up being a little too much. A third of the way. We're going to put it down in there just like that, and then I'll just come back with soil on one side and soil on the other. Give it a little shake, a little push down, and then we're good. Potted up, ready to go. Now, I do not work with moist soil when I'm potting up. Basically what I do is I put all of these into my water reservoirs, my 10 by 20 seed trays, and then I water from below and it begins to soak up the water that way. I don't like to work with wet soil. I think it's messier. Find this process easier and it helps me get rid of air bubbles easier, in my opinion. So anyway, let me go through and let's get a whole bunch of these petunias. We'll get all of those all of those potted up, and then I'm going to show you some other varieties. I think there's still about 5 or 6 different varieties I want to show you that we are going to also pot up today. I don't think I'm going to have enough containers. We'll see how it goes. I'm not very good at like corralling all of my containers in one place. Well, in one place, they're all in the garage where they're just all over the garage. So I'll have to go and really look for some. But let's whip out these petunias. Okay. Saw the petunias. It's 8.5 trays, 16 in each tray. Maybe a little bit too many petunias this year. 5 to 6 flats would have been ideal. But here we are. Everybody's looking pretty good. You can definitely tell in a lot of places it was time to pot up. Get a lot of yellowing leaves. And there were some seedlings that were a little stretched and stressed. You can see over here a lot of the yellowing leaves. Okay, I'm going to get these arranged on the shelves and then we'll move on to some more. Okay, so feeling really good about that. I need to also plant up some other plants. Now, I only have very few of the nursery pots left, so I am going to be switching to some of these larger green pots that I got off of Amazon. I don't actually love this size. It's a little bit big for what I wanted, so I don't actually recommend buying those. I'm also going to be doing some quart size stuff as well. One of the big things I like to do is that if I'm potting up a perennial, any kind of perennial plant, I like to go ahead and pot it up into a quart size because I like my perennials to grow on a little bit more before planting them out into the garden. And I am doing a lot of work on my back garden. I'm installing a new garden in the backyard this year. And those, I do have some plants growing from seed that actually will be going into that area, but I don't even have that area ready to go at all. With that being said, I want to go ahead and make sure that any of the plants that I'm starting that are going to be going into that back garden, since it's going to be a little while still, I'm going to go ahead and pot them up into the quart size containers as well, just so they have a little more space to grow on for the time being, since I don't plan on planting them out probably for the next 8 to 12 weeks. Okay, I want to show you a little seedling trick real quick with taller, leggier seedlings. So my saponaria seedlings are kind of like wonky, falling over the place. I picked up these bamboo skewers off of Amazon. Oh, I don't remember. Not too long ago, but basically they have like this little tie. And I saw this trick at the Collin County Master Gardeners show. So basically I'm going to cut it down to size a little bit, and then I'm going to come over here, and this little loop comes undone. And basically you can loop the seedling through it. And then you can put the little loop back into the knot. A little fidgety. And then it supports the seedling from falling over. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with all these saponaria seedlings, just to give them the support that they need. Because a lot of them are falling over to the side. This happens a lot with marigold seedlings too. They tend to be tall and lanky. And see how that just supports the seedling upright? And the seedling is more likely to survive and not get like a kink in its stem. Obviously, we're trying to be very gentle with the seedling. All right, super simple, easy way to really support these these leggy seedlings. And I still have a couple more coming up, so I'll have to keep an eye on those. Okay, so seedlings. I want to go ahead and pot up these cleome seedlings that are doing really well. This particular variety is called Rose Queen. Let me try to cook some of these out of here. So looking really nice. Now, I'm going to do a little pinching on my cleome at the top. I want to make sure I have 2 sets of true leaves. So here's a set, and then here's a set. And then I'm going to basically pinch that top part off. I did not do that last year with my cleome, and they ended up being crazy leggy, very, very leggy, had one bloom. Definitely should have pinched them when they were seedlings. So I do want to make sure I do that this time. So I'm not going to pinch them before getting them potted. So I want to get them potted first, make sure they're nice and stable, and then go from there. So I'll do that on all of those first, and then I'll go through and pinch them. And if you have a seedling like this, once again, that's like sagging over, you can come in with these bamboo skewers once again and support it. It's going to be better in the long run if it's supported well. Okay, and this is one of the reasons I don't love these containers is you can only do 2 across on them in my 10 by 20 trays. All right, so not all of these are big enough to be pinched, but I'm going to look at one set of tree leaves and then another set of tree leaves, and then I'm going to just clip it right above that. And that should help it start branching out. And you can pinch, the actual term that I was using earlier, but I find that pinching can actually damage a lot of times, so I like to come in with a pair of scissors. I just think it's easier. All right, there we go. Cleome is done. The next one I'm going to move on to is my Jupiter's Beard mix, and these are perennials, and it looks like I had 11 out of 12 germinate, which look really good. All right, Jupiter's Beard. All right, next on the list I'm going to pot up is sea lavender, status sea lavender, which is also supposed to be a perennial in my area. However, I have planted it before and it didn't come back. So, no. But doing it from seed, I had really great germination on it. Looks like I had 10 out of the 12 containers germinate. And so far the leaves are super cool, and this is a very interesting cut flower. And I'm not going to use all of these perennials. A lot of these will go to my friend Kristen. For her garden, she has acreage, so she has a lot more space than I do. And those of y'all with larger gardens, it's very expensive to fill a garden, so starting a bunch of this from seed will be a massive help for her. A lot of times when I have smaller seedlings, I like to almost turn it a little bit upside down and allow gravity to bring out. It's like I had 10 out of 12. Allow gravity to push out the seedling. All right. Status sea lavender. All right, next I need to do Rudbeckia. This first variety of Rudbeckia is cherry brandy. And Rudbeckia is a little hit or miss for me. Sometimes it's perennial, sometimes it's not. Starting it from seed saves me a ton of money. Cherry brandy is one of my favorite. It's not one of my favorite ones. Some of the other ones I'm going to show you in a few minutes are one of my favorite ones. Cherry brandy's okay. I love Prairie Sun. I love Sahara. But let's go ahead and pot these up next. All right, cherry brandy Rudbeckia. Okay, more Rudbeckia. This one is Prairie Sun, which is one of my favorites. Such bright, happy, beautiful blooms. And the more you cut on it, the more it will bloom, which is awesome. I mean, these are just gorgeous. See how I'm turning my seed cells to the side? It's just really, gravity helps a lot when taking seeds out. And you can't do this with a 72 seed cell tray, right? But it works really great for the smaller ones. And my extra soil, I just toss right back into all the potting soil and keep using it. Okay, so each tray only holds 10 of these green ones. I have 2 left, which means I'd have to put 1 in its own tray. So sometimes like I do is I'll come in here to the corner and I'll put 1 plant on one side and 1 plant on the other. And then when the time comes to plant this out, I'll just rip it through the center and make it into 2 plants. I'm going to show you that trick just to save a little space. All right, Prairie Sun Rudbeckia. Okay, next on the list is Sahara Rudbeckia. Just like a dusty tones. It's really pretty. Makes for good cut flowers. But definitely has like a vintage vibe. If you like clear colors, clear and crisp, Sahara is not for you. It definitely has like a little bit of muddied kind of color, which isn't for everybody. I understand. Sahara, Rebecca. Okay, and then the last thing I'm thinking I'm going to pot up today is right here, and this is Forever Silver status, and this is an annual status. And I'm not going to plant it up in these green things. I think I'm going to plant it up in these smaller containers right here, since it is an annual. Status is really great as a cut flower and as a dried flower, which is really cool. And I usually do a whole bunch of different colors. But truthfully, I've found that I just really like this one called Forever Silver. It's white, but it has like a little bit of gray, lavender undertones. It goes with everything. So I'm just going to grow this variety this year. Also found that when I was growing lots of different colors, I never had like enough of one color stem at a time, which drove me insane. So this idea, looks like I had 100% germination on this. This idea should give me lots of the same colored stem at the same time. All right, and Forever Silver, and I probably could cram these into the sides of the ones with the green pots. I'm not going to do that right this second, but looks good. All right, I need to do some rearranging because I have a whole lot more than I used to have. All right, we're looking pretty full. That shelf, and then that tray has half of petunias. A lot of petunias on there. Definitely tell spring is coming. And I have lots of people who are like, you have lights under your dining room table? Yeah, I have a video on it if you're interested, where I suspended lights under my dining room table. Now these lights have a really high lumens, have a really high lumens. I think it's like 14,000 lumens. So it's okay for the seedlings under here to be a little bit further away. These are a little shaded over here, but that's a trade scantia. It can handle some shade. It's not real worried about it. Looks good. Okay, this is how many seed trays I emptied today. It's very, very exciting. It feels so good to get that done. Typically, I play a lot of good music while I'm doing it, which is fun. You can put on a TV show, whatever. Listen to something that makes you happy, but feeling good having that done. Now, I'm not going to do it on camera. I don't think, because I'm tired. This is a lot. But I am going to go ahead and fertilize all of those. Those all need to be thoroughly watered. I water them from the bottom. I will fill up the trays almost to the top. And I will be applying fertilizer on all of those. But you do want to make sure that these are very well watered. Don't let them be in the dry soil and just be done with it. You absolutely have to water them. I will fill them almost all the way up. Had a lot of people ask me about, do I just leave standing water in my tray? Yeah, typically. I leave the water until it all dries up. And then once the top inch of the soil is dry with these plants that I've potted up, I will add more water at that point in time. Now these I'm going to fill up really far because they have a lot of dry soil. Typically, after they're well watered and all the water gets sucked up and the tray is dry, I would only fill them about 50% of the way after that. All right. So I had somebody the other day tell me that I'm boring, that the way I garden is boring. And I'm like, cool. They took the time to write that. I was like, anyway, I know that I'm not super exciting gardener. I don't go get all the big plants and not constantly, having lots of new things installed or things like that. I'm a very real life gardener, working within a budget, working within my time constraints, trying to be cost effective, working with a smaller plot of land. So that's who I am. And if that's boring, I understand, I got you. So, but I was just like, I can't believe someone wrote that. Anyway, I don't think I'm boring. I like my garden, works for me. All right, y'all. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. As always, make sure you like and comment. Every time you leave a comment, it helps grow my channel so much. And if you don't feel comfortable leaving a comment, just drop me an emoji below, letting me know you made it to the end of the video and that you say hi. And be sure to check me out on my social media outlets, including Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. If TikTok goes dark, you'll find me on YouTube Shorts. As always, she's a mad gardener or a decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thanks, y'all.